I think it's almost become routine now that whenever I talk about Chicago, for the most part, it's going to involve these individuals right here. Now, I know when you're looking at this picture, you're probably thinking that you're looking at a whole bunch of people, but really in all reality, you're looking at 3 people who just have multiple mugshots. Now, what's crazy is when it comes to talking about Chicago, they love to talk about how all this crime is going on up there. They love to, of course, pinpoint it on black people, but most of them couldn't even tell you the last time they saw a black person they know personally that had a mugshot. Yet here you have 3 individuals right here who have more than 1 mugshot. From left to right, either 2 to 3 mugshots, and they're all the same people, and all of these mugshots were taken within the last year. Every last one of them. So I'm going to read this article coming from cwbchicago.com, and I'm going to be honest with you. This website right here, literally, if you want to get a lot of stories about what's going on with the South of Bordarians in Chicago, this is the website to come to. And shout out to Tawana for posting it in the Discord. As a matter of fact, I think a few between her and Char Willie, and shout out to her, those 2 right there be keeping me in the loop with this website as it pertains to these stories. So when you think, again, when I do a lot of these stories that are about them, it's coming from that website. It says, let's take another look and see how some of our quote unquote new neighbors, and by the way, this article was posted on January 2nd, 2024. Which is ironic because the one that y'all just saw me recently do, that was posted I think the day before on a whole different story, are doing since they arrived in Chicago. Today we'll spotlight some migrants who have collected multiple arrests in our fair city, sometimes under different names. Jeffrey Salarno Bittencourt, age 24, has been arrested 3 times since August. On August the 4th, Macy's on state security accused him of stuffing $354 worth of merchandise into a backpack and walking out. He stated he was from Colombia, and then he stated he was from Venezuela. An officer wrote in his arrest report noting he had no identification while he was in custody. He allegedly bit and tore the mattress in a police holding cell, according to a criminal damage charge. He was arrested on felony retail theft charges at Nordstrom Rack, 24th North State on November 15th. The store staff accused him of stuffing clothing and shoes worth $1,139 into a suitcase that was offered for sale and walking out the door. The arresting officer said he presented makeshift identification and a letter from the Department of Human Services. 6 days later, he was arrested at the Home Depot on 4555 Southwestern. A store security guard said Betancourt took a swing at him, and when he asked him to leave, and proceeded to bite the guard's hand, according to the CPD report. The report said the bite did not break the guard's skin because he was wearing gloves. The Nordstrom Rack case is still pending. Prosecutors dropped the other 2 cases. Joel Bermudez, age 28, was allegedly carrying a social security card and a U.S. permanent resident card in other people's names when Chicago police arrested him at JCPenney 7601 South Cicero on Christmas Eve. Store security claimed he tried to shoplift $857 worth of merchandise. Officers wrote in his arrest report that he told them the social security and permanent resident cards were given to him by a stranger, but his City of Chicago ID was legit. Despite the significant value of merchandise he's accused of trying to steal in his alleged possessions of fraudulent identifications, prosecutors in the Cook County State's Attorney Office refused to file felony charges, a CPD officer noted in the arrest report. I think we see what the pattern is heading. Remember what I talked about a couple days ago. The pattern is very noticeable. They're doing all these crimes, but they're failing to give them the proper charges or charge them at all. Instead, he's charged with a misdemeanor retail theft. The case is still pending. It's the second time he's been charged with shoplifting. On November 24th, he was arrested at Saks Fifth Avenue on the Magnificent Mile for allegedly trying to steal a $250 pair of gloves. Prosecutors dropped the case on December 19th, but he may not be aware of that since, according to court records, he didn't show up. Anderson Peraza Colmenares, age 28, has been arrested 4 times since October 17th, according to court records. He was accused of shoplifting shoes and a jacket worth $159 from Zara on Michigan Avenue on October 17th, shoplifting $124 worth of liquor from a Jewel Osco in Evanston on November 11th, shoplifting chicken and Sprite from a Jewel Osco in Rogers Park on November 13th, and holding a crack pipe and having a suspect crack rock in his pocket near the Howard CTA station on December 11th. Prosecutors dropped all of the cases except the chicken and Sprite case. He pleaded guilty to that in exchange for 12 months of probation from Judge Sharon Cantor on December 15th. Yonda Contreras, a 23-year-old Venezuelan, has been arrested 3 times since once under the name Jose Lira, according to court records. On October 23rd, he was accused of shoplifting $300 worth of clothing from a sporting goods store in back of the yards. He didn't show up for his next 2 court dates according to court records. In fairness, he couldn't make the second date on November 27th because he was in police custody for a brand new shoplifting charge. In that case, security at Macy's and Loop told police he stole bottles of Gucci and Hugo Boss colognes. Officers noted that he had told him he recently arrived to America 3 weeks ago. He wasn't even for a whole month before he started doing his dirt. I keep telling y'all, this is the new criminal class that they're letting in. What they were doing in their homeland is what they're doing here, and because a lot of them come from squalor, they're coming to quote unquote the land of opportunity. For them, this is like going like a kid in the candy store. He got arrested again on December 10th under the name Jose Lira at Saks off 5th at 1427 North Halsted. Store employees said that he stole a pair of pants and a shirt worth $125. Prosecutors have dropped the first 2 cases. He's due in court on the Saks allegations on Wednesday, January 3rd, which is the day I'm recording this video. Now, like I said, peep all of the stuff that I read. All of them got hit with multiple charges, and in all situations, all of them had multiple charges dropped with the exception of maybe one. Some were lucky and got all of them dropped. And there were multiple ones, like I taught before, where they had court dates, but they missed them. One of them ended up having no choice but to miss the court date because he was in custody for another charge. Again, this is the new criminal class. Granted, it's honed in heavily on Chicago because that's where the news seems to talk about them the most. But the thing is that when it comes to the news, mainstream media news, all they're talking about is them being bussed from the border to Chicago and living in the airport or living outside and some inside probably of a police station. And that's usually as far as it goes. But they don't get to the meat and potatoes of it where it's talking about the crime that's being committed by them. Notice you really don't hear mainstream media talk about all these shootings that happen in Chicago lately nowadays, because this right here and them being bust is being overshadowed by their phantom shooting reports. As I like to call them, those phantom shooting reports, where they have all these shootings that allegedly happen, but they never have a suspect, even though there's all these cameras. Yet here we have actual mugshots from actual criminals who weren't even born here, by the way, and as far as I know, do not pay taxes. They're just squatting, who are actually committing crimes and actually have charges, albeit they never stick, and have mugshots to back up the crimes that they've committed, and you have proof that they commit these crimes. And mainstream media does not report on it like the way they would if it was a black person doing this. This right here could be mainstream media's worst nightmare when it comes to their reports, if you want to call it that, on Chicago, especially when it comes to talking about black people, because for many years they've always loved to talk about black people committing all this crime or all this crime happening in Chicago, saying these outlandish numbers that, oh, it was like 20 people shot this weekend and like 15 people injured, but we have no suspect in custody. But it's being overshadowed by actual criminals that are actually happening, a crime that's actually being committed, that you can actually pinpoint and actually see with your own eyes, and actually see that these individuals have mugshots. Again, look at it. This is 3 people. I know when you probably first saw this image, you probably thought it was more than 3 people, but this is 3 people with just multiple mugshots, because they've committed multiple levels of crime and they had to get a mugshot every time. And if you look at their mugshots, a lot of them look the same in several of them, because they were taken so close together. That's how closely their crimes are. It's not like they were spaced out. What got me was the one that said he was only here for 3 weeks before he ended up committing a crime and already got a record. I don't know any black person personally. Well, I can't say that off the top of my head, because you know it is what it is, but I don't know offhand too many black people that have committed this level of criminality that fast and so swiftly and so consecutively like this and continuously get away with it. Like I told you, what they're probably waiting on is for them to commit something so heinous that way they can have nothing else but to stick a charge to them that will not move. And y'all already know what type of charge that is, and that's most likely the charge of a murder of some type. They lucky all they're doing is theft crimes. But let it escalate, then that's when they were like, oh, now we got a problem. No, you deal with the problem at its foundation. But do you realize how fast a lot of these prisons would probably fill up if they actually made those charges stick? They would probably be having them literally come into those prisons in droves as much as they are coming across that border illegally. But I keep telling people, this right here is the new criminal class. Granted, again, it seems to be honed in on Chicago a lot, but it's going to spread, if it hasn't done so already, to other states and other cities around the establishment. So expect to hear more stories like this going forward in the future.